joining us today. And I want to talk to you guys a little bit, just introducing, each week we do this episode where we interview someone who has graciously submitted their photos to the International Time Capsule Society. We want to know all about them, about their time capsules, about their stories, and their motivations. So we have guests from all over. Today we actually have one from a college, and I'm super excited to bring him in. But again, they come from all over the world. Last time we had a man from the Netherlands, and this time we have someone who is currently based in Texas. So we're going to bring him on. We're going to hop right into it like we always do, but very excited for returning listeners. I now have this fancy new gadget, so hopefully you can all hear me very well. But I'm going to introduce our guest and get started. He comes from Wayne State University, so it's really exciting, and we're going to hop right into it. So welcome, Brandon. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining. Obviously, you are a brand new face here on the channel, so how about you tell our audience members a little bit about yourself? I kind of gave it away. You're a Wayne State University employee, but go ahead and introduce yourself the way that you see fit.
Sure. My name again is Brandon Shamoun. I am a coordinator of student engagement in the Dean of Students office at Wayne State University. Currently, I'm in Texas for a conference, but typically I'm in Detroit, Michigan. That's where I'm from. That's where I work out of. So just temporarily here for this week. Within that role at Wayne State, I oversee a lot of our student engagement activities, large-scale student programming, some civic engagement, community engagement, and student organization education. So I have a really fun job working with students outside of the classroom, and of course with this project that we did a few years back that we'll dive right into in a bit, I'm sure.
Yeah. Definitely, I want to just dive right into the time capsule. You are one of our first college that we've had on the channel talking about this project. So very historic in a way, and we're excited to have you. So tell us about the time capsule. I'm going to be bringing up pictures that you've emailed me and also submitted through the International Time Capsule Society. So for our audience members that are watching video, you'll be seeing that. But me and Brandon are just going to talk through each photo and give you some context. So even if you don't see it on video, totally fine.
All right. Yeah. So we'll kind of rewind back to 2018. That's when I started at Wayne State. I went to Wayne State for undergrad, just for some context there, but I had some time away. And 2018, it was the 150th year of Wayne State's existence. So from 1868 to 2018 was the Sesquicentennial. Big word to say, but after saying it and spelling it so many times, you get it down. One of the tasks and initiatives from that Sesquicentennial committee event was to essentially have some sort of legacy left by students, showcasing basically what has happened in this new millennia, what's happening over the past few years. And a part of it, what we decided was to create a time capsule. So we had a committee of student leaders and just students in general, focusing on those that are involved on student organizations, whether it's fraternity and sorority life, those that live on campus, those commutes. We have 27,000 students at Wayne State. So we're a mid-sized urban public institution in the heart of Detroit. And so we have students from all over, those that commute, that live on campus. So we really wanted to encompass all of that in a sense. And so we worked intentionally with our university archivists, with some student leaders that are in the master's program, since we have an information science and archival program and whatnot, that were really interested in that, and then worked with undergrad students to kind of figure out the logistics of how we're going to do this. So we, if you want me to go really in depth, we basically did all of that, and we'll show some pictures in a bit, of course, as well with that.
Yeah, no, it sounds like a huge project, and I think it's really amazing. I also note that, you guys submitted it in 2018, so right before a huge pandemic. So definitely cool, I guess, to capture what life was like before COVID, right? Because that whole thing is kind of taking perspectives from every single student that you had, or most of them, and getting that perspective pre-COVID, which I think is really valuable now. So why do you think this time capsule is meaningful, especially to Wayne State University and the students?
So we really took a snapshot of what was happening, like I kind of mentioned, in that moment, and what was the Wayne State student then. And so I didn't mention this, but we did not. We were trying to decide on how long we're going to close it for. Is it going to be buried? Is it going to be public? And as you'll see, is that we decided not to bury it, just so that it's preserved and folks can see it and see that legacy as we have it posted in a public space. And With that, we decided that it'll actually be opened during the bicentennial celebration in 2068. So those students that potentially submitted back a few years back will maybe still be around in 50 years from now to welcome and see that. So it really was a screenshot or a snapshot of the moment of our students, and we spread the word out pretty far. We wanted all students to have access to submit it. We've had letter submissions. We had items from student organizations. We really went in depth. We made sure there was preservatives inside there to make sure that it would still be active. But then, like I mentioned, still be on display. So when new students come in and new generations come in, they can walk in and still see that there. And that's our goal, that it's still around over administrators and time to come in the future.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I can imagine, doing a college time capsule, how many submissions that you had and how large it actually became. So can you give me an idea of, how much was in that time capsule? When I talk to other guests, they have their physical time capsules that are very limited on space. So yeah, tell me a little bit about how many applicants inserted things of their own.
Sure. So we had kind of a two-tiered process system. So we only allowed student organizations to submit inside the time capsule in terms of a physical item. And we said nothing bigger than your fists, more or less. So we had students submit a brick. If they're part of a fraternity, that was something that they put in there. We had stuffed animals that maybe represented something along the organization, pins, so just those knickknacks along the lines. And then we had students that maybe were not a part of the organization or just wanted to submit something more. They were able to submit a letter. So they would submit a letter online, and we would print it out on special paper, and then we would put it in the time capsule as well. But that was kind of archived. It wouldn't take up as much space because it was a piece of paper, of course. So that's the system that we kind of worked with, because we wanted to make sure everyone's voices were heard, but also limit on space and ways to preserve. That was a big deal for us as well. And I don't come from an archival background. I don't come from any of that kind of background. So it was really helpful to work with our graduate students and our university archivists to really aid in the preparation of being sealed.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I was a student and I wanted to put in a time capsule piece, you said it had to be as big as your fist. So how many photos is that equivalent to?
So in terms it was actually the item, so it was bigger than your fist. So we had bricks in there, we have stuffed animals in there, so it wasn't necessarily a photo. Those were actually in the box. The box, I don't know exactly the sizes, but it was pretty hefty. You'll see it in a second, I'm sure. And so when you open that up, there's things that were taped on the actual door. There was things inside of the box. And we had, I would say, roughly 30 to 40 organizations or so submit actual pieces. And then we've had, I would say hundreds, maybe about 100 or 150 of letters that were submitted to put inside of there as well. We had tabling events leading up to the event. So we would be in the dining halls. Hey, come and submit a letter. Hey, come get some ideas. We would table outside in our courtyard area just to get some, more interest. We sent emails out, and it got so big, in a sense, that our faculty kind of wanted something similar. So they did something very similar along the lines as well. And I'm not too certain on how that was organized and what was put in theirs, but they have basically an identical time capsule that is not as publicly displayed, but in our university archive library, that is also similar to the concept that we did.
Wow. So it seems like it was kind of a pattern in that system. People just saw the value in it and they wanted to make their own.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's amazing. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but genealogy and, doing these kinds of activities, time capsules specifically, this is becoming huge in America. So the number one hobby in America is gardening. Number two is genealogy research. So yeah, it's huge. I didn't know it was so big, but people are really taking a liking to it. So I love that your teachers made their own as well. But, with the specific contents of the time capsule, what do you think is the craziest thing that someone submitted? You had so many college students, and we all know how crazy college students can get. So I'm sure they put some things in there.
One thing I forgot to mention is that we also had a photo booth that was printed on simple paper as well. So we had a lot of crazy photos and students writing letters, like notes on the back of it, their loved ones on the back of it. I'm hoping that, college partners might not end up being their partner later on. So it'd be interesting to see like all those cute, fun things. Not that I'm jinxing them or anything, but come back 50 years from now, if that's still the case. But I didn't think we were going to get a brick, and that was one thing that we had to figure out. How do we properly preserve a brick, or how do we properly preserve these items? And that was, like I said, more so a challenge for our master's students to figure out, our graduate students to see. Like, it was really like in a sense, like an internship or a project for them to work on too. Yeah. And so those are some of the things that were a little bit different, but we made it work. We didn't deny anything.
Yeah, I was going to ask that. That was the next question. Like, what was your requirements? Because you had so many people contributing, like I didn't know if you had a certain set of rules that they had to abide by.
Yeah, so we definitely did. And so those included, I'm just trying to pull everything up really quick here. So that we gave them, like we said, the fist thing. It was glass, metal, or stone that was preferred. Acid-free paper. So if they were submitting something that was like separate from the letter, if they had something that had paper, acid-free, no plastic, no thin wood, and no pen markings. And besides that, it was pretty open. So they were able to do anything else within those guidelines.
Wow. Yeah, they had a lot of freedom then. And I'm sure that, because this was such an enormous project, you probably got some media interest. So did people cover you, write articles about you, that sort of thing?
Yeah, so our university, of course, wrote some articles that got branched out. The Detroit Free Press also covered the overall event, because this was part of the Sesquicentennial. And so the time capsule was officially sealed ceremoniously, I would say, at this event. And so that was in October. And then when that was sealed, we still had to do a few things before we can actually get it in the physical location. But it's been there roughly around the end of 2018, and we haven't touched it since. So it's been in a glass cage, and there's a lot of preparation for that. And it was very important for the student committee to make sure that it's visible, and they wanted future students to see it. So when we do campus tours, it's in our undergraduate library. Right when you walk through the doors, it's on like the left in the atrium area. So right when you walk in, when they do campus tours, they stop in front of it, talk a little bit about it. And then like there's a plaque with everyone's name on it that was on the committee. And then everyone that had submitted something inside the capsule, there's also some information on what was submitted, who submitted it, and all that fun stuff on the inside.
Yeah, I love that. I'm actually going to start pulling up the our time capsule stuff, but because obviously you got a library record when you submitted it through the International Time Capsule Society, so I wanted to pull that up as well. But yeah, so media interest, you got a lot of, because you sent me some articles too, right?
Yes, yeah. So there was a bit more than just that. A lot of it were just snippets of the overall event that mentioned maybe a word about the student time capsule. There wasn't necessarily one article on the time capsule alone. It was just about the overall event with information on that. But it is mentioned, or it is in person, and then it's also recorded in our archive library on campus. And then there is a digital record as well in our archive library that if someone really wanted to see what was inside of it, it's not really public, but they can get that digitally, because a lot of photos were taken and put into our archive library. I don't actually have access to it. So like I have to go in and figure that out as well if I wanted to do that. So it was very properly, or I guess like managed and assessed and archived overall, so that we know that years to come, if it needs to be moved or something gets damaged, we know what was in it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I guess a lot of people. No, go on. Sorry, my internet.
I was going to mention that in there was another time on our campus when a time capsule was placed, or supposedly placed, that during this project, I looked up a lot of information if that's ever happened on campus. It's been 150 years. We didn't know. There's a lot of transition physically on campus, new buildings, etc. And one of our resident hall buildings was scheduled to be opened on September 11, 2001. And there was also a time capsule that was going to be put in the ground somewhere that day. and we don't know whatever happened because, of course, different events happened on that day, and there is no record. There's articles within our student newspaper, articles with our communications team that it was planned to go and happen that day with the official like opening, or I think either the opening or the like start of building the building, but we have no idea where it is. We don't know what happened to it, and so we didn't want that to happen again.
Wow. There's a lot of history with this one. You guys put so much effort into it. I love like the idea of having a student body creating their own, especially with your help, because it's such an enormous project. And also, I wish that, my school when I was in college did something like this. To walk away with that kind of project would be really cool. So I'm going to bring up your everything that we're talking about right now, because I want to show people the actual library record that all of your students can now find now that you've registered it through the International Time Capsule Society. So you've done something so helpful for them, and I'm going to show it right now. So can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. So for those of you guys just listening in, we're going to be looking at, the library record. It's on the WorldCat. So Brandon said he's going to post this so his students can view it. So if you're watching and you're a student at Wayne State University and you want to check this time capsule out, this is where you'd find it. So you go on the WorldCat. Now, this is the world's largest library database, which is amazing. It has 10,000 libraries all over the world, so you can look up whatever you want using this. You've registered it through International Time Capsule Society. They use NotForgotten, and they are a special library, so we have all this great technology to work with. So basically, you just look up Wayne State University NotForgotten, and it brings you up to here, their library record. And I don't know if you've done this yet.
I have not. This is good to know.
Oh, awesome. Cool. So then you just view it online, and this is your library record. And I want to say, all the information about it is below. So anything that you need to know, even what the time capsule is made of, is down below. So it's just an amazing way to make sure you have all those details, because a lot of those get lost along the way. So we want to keep it all organized.
Yeah, especially with like students transitioning out, administration, different generations. We wanted to make sure that there was multiple copies of the key. We also made sure that, as you see now with the box, the time capsule itself, there's no key to it. It's just a screwdriver. So so like we didn't want to, there is a key to get into the showcase. It's glass, but the actual time capsule is just a screwdriver that you turn and access, but it's not accessible until they open up the showcase.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna show. That's really interesting. A screwdriver, so no key. Is that just to make it easier for people to access it in the future?
Yes. So like with keys around campus and just with folks going in and out, there is a key like that the facilities has to open the showcase, but the actual time capsule is just a flathead screwdriver that opens and closes.
That's great. Yeah, that's a good idea, because God forbid they lost that key, it'd be a mess. So this is your record on the left. I think, it has all the details of when you guys, like the purpose of this time capsule, as well as when you put it together, and then also your opening date. So that's really exciting. So it's going to load. But I'd love to, oh my God. I'm telling you, today's the day of tech issues, but it's no problem. The next page that we have, because I want to show you guys the photos, and you submitted them to me. You also sent me like all these great articles that you guys were a part of through even having these time capsules, and the way that you've celebrated the 150th anniversary. So many ways on how to find it, which I think is great. A lot of people don't always have media coverage, so I think that's really important. So that everyone
it was a very big celebration on our campus. So there was a lot of events, and I think the time capsule was something to even like add a finishing touch to it that the students really put on themselves. So it was great.
Yeah, very exciting. Well, this is going to load, but yeah, oh, there it is. Cool. So this is just the plaque that you guys put on. Now, tell me about that.
Yeah, so this is the actual time capsule that was laser engraved. So this is the front door of it. So that right corner is where the screwdriver would go in and open and close it. So this was all custom made for us through one of the time capsule vendors that we had found. And so it says where we sealed it, and we don't have a set date, but sometime during the bicentennial celebration, as we know the university will have some sort of celebration to celebrate 200 years. They'll open it probably at that event. And underneath this, I'm not sure if there was another photo, with the whole showcase is the plaque with a lot of information on who was on the committee, who helped out with that, and actual the showcase overall. You'll see it with the group photo that I had put in as well.
Yeah.
That one right there. Yep. Well, this is it. So
Number 3.
Yep. So this is the plaque. If you go back one more, or this works as well. But there was one in between this one. So you can kind of see that it's in the library right when you walk in. It's in this showcase, and this glass showcase is sealed by a key. And underneath the glass panel is the plaque that commemorates everyone that sat on the committee, which is the next slide photo, and then includes all the staff advisor. Oh, well, there's that too. That shows everyone, but the names of all the staff advisors. It was myself and Teresa, who's on the right side there with the blue, light blue shirt, were the staff advisors. And then we had these students that helped up. And then the 2 folks on the right, the one that's kneeling, and on the that's standing in the tie, that the bottom right is the dean of students, and the guy with the suit is the dean of the libraries. So we had a lot of university support in this, and it was really great that the university was behind this. And we had, of course, we were able to get some funding for this, as well, as we know that budgets might be an issue. And then the library also said that this back white wall could also have some vinyl print on it if we wanted to put some designs on it to commemorate the time capsule as well. But then COVID happened really soon after, and we were not able to do much more, but we're hoping that we can still commemorate this a bit more. And it's been there for the past 3 years or so, and students see it right when they walk in.
Wow. Yeah, I love that. And I have to say, I really love the idea of keeping it above ground, because as much as we love physical time capsules here, 80 to 90% of them are lost because they get buried. Mother Nature is a strong force. So, the rain, the water, it just kind of washes them away. Or the water will get into the time capsules and they just get ruined. So this is a great idea to not only save it, save the contents and protect them, but also just to put it in sight. Everyone walks in, they see it, no one forgets it. So you have so many different forms of protection. Having the basic library record, having it embedded within the International Time Capsule Society and registered, and then you have it in this great, you guys thought a lot about it, and it clearly shows. So for anyone who's listening, who may want to do a time capsule, who may be involved in the school system, whether that be, elementary, middle, college, high school, what kind of advice do you have for them, specifically with creating a school time capsule?
I think that, one of the biggest things, like I mentioned, was we really want the student voice. And if you're going to do a school, if you're going to do whether it's K-12 or higher education, you really want to get that ownership from your students. And I think that's really important, because although I'm a staff and I sign pay the bills and whatnot for this and whatnot, all the ideas, all the decisions were not made by me or by my colleagues. They were made by students, and we wanted to hear where they wanted it, to the point of where in the library did you want it? What color did you want this to be? What did you want etched on the outside? It was all student led. And that was a big deal for us to really get the student voice, because it was supposed to capture this snapshot of our students. And we wanted to make sure that was really encompassed within this project.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can definitely tell, one of my questions I usually ask is, how are you ensuring that this is not forgotten? But clearly, with everything that you've told me already, it kind of answers that one. But, it's different because it's future students instead of descendants, right? It's not in the family. But your placement of it, the way that you guys have had everyone involved, it seems like you're setting a very good, precedent for the future for them to follow. And I wonder if you guys would ever want to do a time capsule that, would maybe be a way that students could have a reunion. So not 150 years from now, but maybe 20 or 50 or something like that. Does that sound like something you would want to do?
Yeah, so this one is 50 years from now. So this is the bicentennial. So from Sesquicentennial for 150 to the bicentennial, which would be 200. So only 50 years. And so that's why we were pretty intentional on the plaque, including everyone's name that was a part of the committee, so it wouldn't be forgotten. So that, the odds are if 15 people's names on there and the majority of these folks are 20-year-olds, 50 years will be 70, that they'll be back for the opening. And so that the university could really reach out. Although we're not necessarily, I might not be working at Wayne State in 50 years. I might be retired or whatever it may be. And the students might be off becoming doctors and lawyers or whatever it may be. They can still reach out in public record or just having the alumni association help us reach out. So that was really important for us as well, to put everyone's names there so that someone will have some sort of memory of this 50 years prior of when we all did it.
Yeah, no, you're right. I said 150 because it just looks like something that's going to last that long. But yes, 50 years, totally. I think it's such a great, incentive for everyone to get together in the future, especially students, and have that college reunion. I know a lot of the times, I guess more so high school, but people don't show up to the reunions, They like to avoid them, or they just don't want to make the time. But if they have put something in the time capsule and they want to know, what's in it and what did other people put in it, and you wrote about, or you told me about like love letters that maybe college romances, they're talking to each other, that's a lot of fun as well to open it and just go down memory lane. So I think that that's a great idea for colleges to have their reunions, even on like a social aspect. It doesn't have to be official, but obviously this feels more official. So do you think that, time capsules, they're obviously very important to you guys, and you guys have seen the value in it, but do you think it's important for preserving history as a whole? Like, even if you were to make your own individual time capsule and preserve your own history, Brandon's, history, do you think that's
I think it's very important to really have some sort of generational every 10 years or maybe a little bit longer, whatever it is, to have that data and that history behind what was happening in that era. We don't know what happened on our campus potentially, during the first pandemic that happened, or one of the pandemics that happened in the 1920s. Our campus was around then. And so like, I know that this one didn't happen. It happened right before the pandemic, but like, we want to know what the snapshot. We wanted to know, hey, we have cell phones. What's happening out? What happened back then? We have photos. We have things like that, but it's cool to have a really like tangible item that we can really check back into. And I think that whether you're a person, a family, a business, a university, it's really important to have that generational like advice, or that like history, that context, that you can really see where you came from. And we're lucky to have an archive with our institution. A lot of universities have that. So we were able to work with the university archivist to really make sure that all this was properly archived, and that it's really overall that it could be accessible in years to come. So it's definitely great to keep on doing that. And I encourage other folks to do it. We've done one presentation on this for a regional conference in Michigan. So we've been showing other institutions and other archivists how we did this, and that they can do it on their own too. And it was simple, but there's some moving parts in getting that done, but it was really fun doing it.
Yeah. Well, I can totally see why there would be a need for that, because there's so many details that you don't think about until you've actually created the time capsule. You see those hurdles. So, I'm sure that you learned as you went along, and just like you said before, you were printing things off on special paper that was hopefully going to last that 50 years. It wasn't going to fall apart. So what are some other things that you did? Just maybe even what you talked about at the conference to give people, helpful advice at other schools.
Sure. So archivalmethod.com was our favorite website, because they were their products are really helpful. I never heard of it before, but like I said, working with archivists, they knew all about it. So we had like special tape. So the tape adhesive wouldn't, go away. We have a student newspaper that we were able to get a copy of and put inside special newspaper storage kits. We had the interleavings between different letters, just to make sure that nothing's like transferring or ripping or whatever it may be. And then we had also the what is desiccants, or I forgot what they're called, but like basically to remove the moisture from the inside. So like all that was also in there, even though we weren't burying it. We never know, it might get really hot, the build, I don't know, whatever it may be. We wanted to make sure that the temperature inside was also constant. So we had that within the time capsule itself, that to make sure that was preserved. So all that we were able to purchase and get that all put in there. as well.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And I think you guys definitely like, you know, did such a good job with the physical time capsule. So that kind of leads me into my next question of where do you think the future of time capsules will be?
After doing this one and after submitting it into the that international time capsule database and whatnot, I mean, before that, I didn't really know much about it. And
Yeah.
I feel like now I walk downtown in downtown Detroit and I see a statue and it says, there's a time capsule in here. I'm just like
Oh,
really
wow.
a lot more interested and I'm a lot more aware of what's happening. I think more and more as technology increases and as, we think what happened back in the 60s and the 70s and 80s, and we don't necessarily maybe have that from back then, or we open time capsules that are destroyed or
Yeah.
not as great. When they get that, I think they should be. I hope so that they'll be more and more prevalent in our society, and that, like I said, you need a record. We're not just living on this earth for our time and lifespan. We want. I think it's great to know, and what you said with genealogy and all that fun stuff. It's really cool to know where you came from and where you've evolved from. So I'm hoping that in the future, time capsules become more prevalent in our society, and just more common
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. And do you think that they'll always be physical or do you think that, digital? Because before you mentioned advice, right, that you're passing down this advice, how cool would it be if you could stand in front of a camera and talk to the camera and give this video to future students that you may never get a chance to meet? Because you said before, who knows in 50 years where you'll be, hopefully retired on a boat somewhere. But like you want to give this advice, you want to pass it down. So talk to me. What do you think about digital time capsules? Do you think they're attainable?
I would hope so. I don't know if they're as fun, at least in the process of that I experienced. It was really cool to put all that through, and have something physical there. Then we'll pull it out in 50 years and whatnot. Potentially, if there is some sort of digital database file that with technology, if it can stay sustained, that you'd be able to open up that file type in 50 years or 100 years from now, whatever it may be. The only thing that I would suggest or think that it wouldn't necessarily be like a time capsule that is digitally archived, but like you can open up all the time. I think it'd be really cool to
Yeah.
still have an end date, like still have an end date or open date. And then if it's like, for example, in university life, and university presidents can submit a farewell letter or a farewell video that maybe the next 5 presidents will open up later on and say this was happening on our campus back then or whatever it may be. So digitally, I think it'd be really cool, but I think it's still cool to have that like open date and that
Yeah.
suspense and that excitement. What's inside of this? Like, what was it like back then? Not just on a website for always to have to come. That becomes like a history lesson in a sense if it's always there.
Yeah. No, I totally agree what you mean. I think the best thing I will say, in my opinion, I feel like about digital time capsules is that when you make physical time capsules, you have to part with what you put inside of it, right? So, like, I wanted to put one of my pieces of jewelry in there, but I didn't want to take it off my neck and never be able to wear it again. So, I guess, like, the perk of digital is that you could, like, take a picture of it and digitize it and scan it and put it in your time capsule, but also always have what you wanted to put in there and not have to let it go. So, it's kind of cool, too. I guess it's kind of the ultimate insurance for your time capsule or like backup, so you always have the digital and the physical.
Yeah, and that's like we have photos of what's inside of it. Like I said, I don't really have access to that. It's like within our university archive. So like if that happens, like if they're curious of what was inside, or if it gets
Yeah.
destroyed somehow within construction or whatever it may be, which I'm hoping it never does,
I
but we
know.
still have that there that was archived digitally as well, in the back end.
Yeah, exactly. I also think just like I think back to when I was in college and what people were wearing and like the student body, like I want to see that. So I would love B-roll of I went to the University of Miami, shout out Canes, but I would love to see some B-roll of that campus in the 70s, like or the 80s or whatever. Like that would be so cool. We have all the hippies walking around. I think it'd be so fun to see what the student body looked like. I wonder what your student body looks like now as opposed to when it's 2068, what they're going to look like, what they're going to wear, the music. It's going to just evolve, and I'm really excited to see what it's going to look like, which leads me to my next question, which is what do you think Wayne State University will look like by the time you guys open it in 2068? I know it's a loaded question. I don't expect you to know the future, but, tell me. You know these students better than I do.
Yeah, so and I think I mentioned this to you before we were on, but I was a student at Wayne in undergrad, and I graduated in 2014, so not too long ago. But from 2014 to when I started full time in 2018 on campus, the campus changed enormously within those 4 years. New buildings going up, new buildings coming, or old buildings coming down. Academic programs, branching out to just enrollment, different students. We're the most diverse student campus in Michigan. And I've seen photos from the 90s and from the 40s and 50s, and population has changed drastically on campus and physically, and with what's being offered. So I think in 50 years from now, I think in 10 years from now, the campus vision is going to be just so different. There's going to be it needs to evolve with the times. It needs to evolve with what the student needs are. If students, if we're branching out, if right now we have scooters on our campus. We didn't have scooters on campus 5 years ago. Like,
Yeah.
there's just like that. You have to evolve with the time. So I don't know what's going to happen. If we keep on expanding, we're going to need bigger library space. We're going to need different student services and just different student needs. My office works with like student wellness. So we have a food pantry on campus. We have a clothing closet coming to campus. So it's just like keep on going with what's happening with the times of what the needs of the students are. And I think that in 50 years, if everyone needs special glasses to watch class from their dorms or from the resident halls, then I don't know. Maybe that's what we do, but we'll see what happens. And I'm super excited to see the growth of this institution. It's been happening for over 150 years now, and I know that it'll keep on going for 150 more. So we'll keep on seeing what's ahead.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And it's a good point, too, that you made about, buildings changing. Because I remember when I went to the University of Miami, Lake Osceola, there would be a big building behind the residential dorms. And when I was a freshman, it was there. And it was just like that picturesque landscape. Whenever you took a picture of the lake, it would be in the back. And then by the time I graduated, they had been torn down, both residential buildings, and they had been there forever. So it was a huge historical moment. And I think even just watching the way my own campus changed before my eyes in those short 4 years, actually 3.5 because 3.5 because I transferred. It was just really insane to see. So I always thought, I wish I had a time capsule. I wish I had something of the University of Miami when I first joined. And I wish, honestly, I had a video of myself talking to myself in the future. Elyse, like, you're going to have a great experience. Like, it's going to be the great decision, because it was very hard for me to transfer, but it was a good decision. So I always wish I had some sort of footage to commemorate that, and to also just look around not only where I was at personally, but also where the campus was at, because it is history that you'll never be able to retrieve. So I totally get your point. And you guys are a very diverse school. I have to say, my dad went to Michigan State, so I'm sure he's listening to this thinking, Spartans, they're probably the most diverse. But I think from my research about Wayne State University, you guys have a really unique student body, and it's going to be amazing when you open up the time capsule to see what they all put in there, especially the letters. They're just my favorite part. I was a journalism major. I love words. So were you, able to add to that time capsule yourself, by the way? I wanted to ask you that earlier.
Yeah, so I did we had a photo booth, like I mentioned. I picked some photos. I wrote a letter on the back of it. Our question that we asked, like, so for those folks that submitted a letter, it was basically giving advice and feedback of what was campus life now, and what do you think, like, it was dear student of 2068, and like what is campus life now, and then what do you like suggest to them, or what can you give them some guidance on? And so that's what I kind of did in my little note as well. So we're super excited to see. Like, I didn't read them. We said it was going to be pretty like confidential. We made sure there was no vulgar language or anything like that, but we wanted to make it as private as possible in there. And so we're hoping that it'll be fun when they open them up. And one thing that you mentioned about buildings, and I think that is really good advice, that we don't think about when buildings are going under renovation or even being teared down. Like, just walk through it with your camera, like your phone. Like, take a video. Like, we had a renovation on our campus, and maybe someone has it. I just haven't seen it. But like, when I was a student, the building looked one way. When I started working there, the building looked completely different. And so when I'm thinking back how it was, it's based on memory. But if there was like just a walkthrough of like how it looks like, it kind of bring flashbacks of like, oh, this is where we ate and where we hung out, and now it's like an office. And so it'd be really cool to somehow just digitally archive, like, hey, this is how our campus has transitioned and progressed through time.
Yeah. And maybe, that's what you would put in those digital time capsules that I mentioned, like, video of your campus, because as much as we could write about it, and flat media is amazing too, photography, really important. Um, Something about video is just all encompassing and it has that human characteristics. I was looking at my old videos before this podcast just to, look at my school and kind of what I experienced. And I have this one video of this kid. I mean, well, not of this kid, but it's of the lake, and this kid just shoots on his skateboard right past it, and it just made me think, like, you're right. Now we're all on automated scooters, and we're like really going into this age of technology that is just so vastly different from anything we experienced in the past. So we don't think about these things because they're brand new and they're just not even in our head because they're not even existing at that moment.
Exactly. One of my favorite things that I see on social media, and whatnot is when someone gets an old photo and overlays it like in the same location live, and like they take a picture and you can really see the history. And I love that. And I wish I was able to to find some of those and do more with it on our campus and kind of build a collage or just like some sort of art piece in that regard. Because there are some places that look exactly the same, and there's some historical buildings on our campus that are under the National Historic Registry that can't be touched. And, so that you can find someone back in the 50s with suit and tie going to class, where now people are rolling out of bed and going to
Yeah.
class. So
Or logging on via Zoom, right? As we
exactly. Or on Zoom. Yep.
So crazy. Yeah. So I definitely think, the future of technology, is going to impact the future of time capsule technology. And I'm kind of excited for it. I'd love to just have some, videos to look back at to give my children, because hopefully these will last a very long time. The physical ones last 50. I talked to people, I think my last guest, his was lasting 300 years or maybe even more than that. So we have some really passionate time capsulers out there in the world across the globe. One of my first guests was from Bolivia, and his whole city made a time capsule for Bolivia to kind of mark this political upheaval that was going on. And like, they did it only for 10 years, but it was just absolutely massive, and they buried it. So I think it's funny that you said when you were like walking down, you saw that statue and you saw there was a time capsule with it. Once you start making these time capsules, you start seeing them everywhere.
Yep. Cornerstones, statues, like it's just, yeah, you're right.
It's everywhere. Yeah. So I'm excited to kind of push forward and, learn more about everyone's time capsules. But I think you guys have done such an excellent job. I really want to thank you for putting that effort in, because now we get to show it off in the International Time Capsule Society Registry, and kind of use this as an example for what people can do, especially people that don't want to bury them but still want to make one.
For sure. For sure. Thank you so much for allowing me to just talk about our experiences and showing how the students put this on with Wayne State and overall. Thank you.
Yeah, and if you have any more advice, because we do always have people listening who want to put together a time capsule, and hopefully, you put together your own personal one as well now that you have this experience, to see where you'll be in 40, 50 years, who knows? But yeah, any advice to anyone listening who might want to do one for either themselves or for a school?
Yeah. So if you want to, like, in terms of like contact information, is that what you're trying to look for this?
Well, anything, because I know that, through the experience you learn a lot, and maybe you experience some mistakes that you were like, oh, we learned not to do that, or this worked really well. So anything like that, just that you can tell the listeners. And then, of course, afterwards, we'll link all of the your socials, Wayne State, if you want to
Perfect.
all that. Yeah.
Yeah. So talk to an archivist if you can. Talk to somebody who knows what they're somewhat doing in terms of preserving, or at least do your research. That is a big deal. You want to make sure the stuff inside of there is actually preserved. So that was the biggest help for us. I dealt with the student life side and student engagement side, but the preparation and the advice was all from the archivists and those students that had the knowledge on what will really make it last. So try to work with somebody in that regard. And then if anyone has any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm open in that regard, and how we did it from a university perspective, from an administration, feedback perspective. I can aid with that as well.
Thank you. Yeah, honestly, right. So for anyone listening, I'm a very spontaneous person, but time capsules need preparation, right? You can't just throw everything in there and hope for the best. So obviously talk to an archivist, or talk to Brandon. So I'm going to link all of his information there, because he is one of the experts now at Wayne State University. But Brandon, it's been such a great conversation. Absolute pleasure to have you on the show. And I want to thank you for your time. And stay in touch. Let me know how it goes. And if you guys do anything else, I'd love to hear about it and be on that inside scoop.
All right. Thanks, Elyse.
All right. Bye.
Appreciate it.
Woo! Okay, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Hidden World of Time Capsules. We had an amazing guest this time, and I hope he helped you out, especially if you are listening for maybe a school and you need some information on how to make the most out of your not forgotten time capsule as we put them in the back of the International Time Capsule Society registry. So we are creating history today. Wayne State University has created history today, and I'm very thankful that you guys have all listened to it and you're here today. So next time, next episode, we'll be talking to another guest, but every single Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we'll have this time capsule episode, this series, and join me for next time. It'll be really great, and we'll have another great guest. So thanks again, guys. I'll link everything below. If you have any questions for Brandon, want to ask him about some of his process, maybe get some advice and what to look out for, he's more than happy to talk to you guys. So again,